Sure, Arjun.
Okay. All right, great. So, thanks to everyone who has joined us today. We are very excited about this workshop. Monica and I had been discussing for quite some time, of doing collaborating on one of these workshops together, and we are very glad that we are finally doing it. The topic that we have chosen for today is something that is quite specialized and I would say a little bit of a niche, for the broad working professional population. But we really wanted to focus on it because a lot of times we have seen when we talk to individuals one on one, they share their hesitations, their challenges, their questions around how to take a career gap in case there is a requirement from personal commitments or health issues or other broad swath of reasons. How to take that career gap, and then more importantly, if you have taken a gap, how to return to the workforce in a as seamless manner as possible. So, obviously, this topic would not be something that would jive with the broad working population, but still, we really want to focus on it because there's a growing number of people. I think, Monica, if you would agree, growing number of people who are undertaking such gaps. Um, so yeah, we are very excited to do this, and I want to share. Before we kick it off, I just want to share a little bit of intro about myself and Monica. First, just about Monica. Monica and I have come in touch in the recent past, and Monica has been a leading career transition coach with thousands of followers on LinkedIn. She has helped hundreds of professionals make very drastic, very fruitful career transitions in their journey. And she's also a corporate trainer and learning and development consultant. So there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that comes with that experience, and we are very lucky, very thankful to have her here with us. Um, I also want to share a bit about the platform Pivot that I have developed in the recent past. Pivot is an online career tech platform that primarily focuses on professionals who are trying to make some sort of functional domain or industry transition. Um, Again, based on our conversations with hundreds of individuals, we are noticing a big uptick in people trying to make very different kinds of career switches as opposed to, let's say 10, 20 years ago when the focus was on just job security. So Pivot helps you in multiple ways, which we'll share throughout this session. But that's the focus area. And just about myself, I have been working in HR and consulting domains for about a decade and started this online platform Pivot just slightly less than a year ago. And we are just kicking off, so very excited about the journey ahead, and again very happy to partner with industry leaders like Monica, and happy to have you all here. So with that, I think, Monica, maybe I'll just try to set the stage a little bit for a conversation today, and then would love to hear your answer. I think the number one thing that I have heard from people who are undertaking a career gap or thinking of one is, firstly, I mean, it's a very basic question. Should I take a career gap? Will you work?
Arjun, before that, I would like to interrupt.
Okay,
I would,
please.
and if you permit me to do so.
No, absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Arjun has already shared that we are less number of people here because we are talking about a niche subject, which most of the time is ignored by most of us. Now, when we are less number of people, that means we are having more opportunities to talk on a subject which is less talked about in masses. First of all, are you all present here? If you are present, I would like to see you before we start this workshop. I and Arjun are not here to just complete few slides or few subject and share about one topic. We are here to talk about the need of the hour and how we are running off from that particular subject. So if you are here, you can hear me, you can see Arjun. I would like to see all of you before we take this conversation ahead, because I don't want this webinar to be yet another webinar which is in sync to all those COVID era webinar which we have been attending time and again, 1, 2, 3, and maybe 5 webinars a day. So if you are here present, if you are present in present, I want to see all of you, and thereafter start with the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, guys. Please be great if
Thank
you
you,
can switch
Payal.
on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deepti. Thank you. The subject which we are going to talk today is again a subject with which we all are trying to run away, and at the same time kind of putting a kind of a curtain in front of us, saying that we are not the one who is looking for this solution. We are not the one who is looking for a career gap. We are not the one who is unhappy with our career job and want to change and move into another line. So my first question before I and Arjun get into conversation with all of you is, how are all of you feeling today, this beautiful Wednesday evening? How are you all feeling? I want you to answer in one word in the chat box quickly. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Are you happy? I mean, what is your feeling when you logged into this particular session? If you are here present now fully, Shranaya, it would be great if I could even see you. Thank you, Deepti. One word, one word. You are okay. How are you?
Intrigued.
So just in case if I'm supposed to question all of you, how are you? How would you answer me this evening? One word.
I like Deepti's and Christopher's answers. It seems like everybody's got their learning hat on here.
More than learning hat, there is yet another thing which is important and which I want all of you to see and understand before we enter into the conversation. Arjun, if you could just enable the share screen option for me.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Arjun is, kind of giving me that share screen option. I want you to quickly think about, how are you? Are you happy? Are you okay? What is your current mental state when you are attending this particular workshop? I hope everybody can see this image on the screen now. Before we get entered into this conversation, I want all of you to understand this is a list of few things how an individual can feel at any point of time. But most of the time, we are just stuck with one answer, and that's okay or good. Rest all emotions are somewhere hidden, and rest all emotions we just don't want to discover and accept the fact that we are undergoing. In today's webinar, I want all of you to first of all understand it's okay to be not okay, which is yet another common statement which is everywhere in the air these days. But are you able to understand it? When you are already in a settled job and you want to look for a career change, are you okay? If your family needs you, are you okay for this gap? If you need yourself, are you okay for this gap? And that's what you're going to get in our today's session. Over to you, Arjun.
No, thanks so much for that, Monica. I think you've raised the energy to the next level here. So thank you for that. I agree. I think let's have more of an interactive workshop here. We don't want to just share our so-called gyan. I think there's a lot of knowledge to be shared amongst people who have joined us as well. So please feel free to share questions or any views or thoughts you may have on this topic as well throughout. Yeah, just where I was going to start by is sharing just a very basic question which people ask in the beginning about a career gap is, should I even be taking it? Is it going to hurt my chances of having a successful career over the long term? How is it going to look to my potential employers once I try to make a comeback? And so a lot of people who have taken a career gap try to be reluctant. I mean, they're very reluctant about it. They don't really own their career gap story. So my question here, Monica, to you is, how should people treat a career gap, both within themselves? How should they think about it for themselves in terms of their long-term career opportunities? And then also outwards, how should they explain that career gap to let's say their employers or their clients once they're trying to make a comeback?
Thank you, Arjun, for a beautiful question. Most of the time we have this question and that's where we start hiding it. Now, there is this beautiful formula by Jack Canfield, and I'm sure most of you have heard about it. It says that E plus R equals to O. Anybody in the room who knows or who have heard this formula? E plus R equals to O. Okay, your E stands for the event, R stands for your response in that particular event, and O stands for your output. So there are events in your life where you are supposed to take this career gap, or where you have no other option left, but you're supposed to take this gap. Or you are stuck in your career at one place where you don't see any further growth for yourself. You don't see any further passion laid into the same domain. And that's where you feel I need a gap, or else I'm going to be stagnant like a rock in that particular place. So E plus R, that's your current event plus your response, is going to decide your output for your career success. Career success or career failure totally depends upon you. So when I say about career gap, and as Arjun said, is it okay to take a career gap? Yes, it's definitely okay to take a career gap, because a lot of time we don't know how to deal the situation where we are stuck up in the life. But whenever we are taking up this career gap, it is important for all of you to understand that you are supposed to own your own career gap story. Now, how do you own it? The first and the foremost thing is you're supposed to be more transparent and thoughtful about your career gap. Why are you taking a career gap? Is there anybody sick in your family? You want to care for your kids, you have a medical emergency, you just want to change your job because you're not liking it, you want to pursue any other professional training, or your company is trying to lay you off, which was a very common reason in the last year. So all these reasons are but obvious. But the only thing which all of you need to understand before taking up a career gap is you need to own your story. If you had a career gap, you need to accept the fact that you are going on a gap, and thereafter also share that story to your next interviewer or the next person where you are going to go and collaborate for the job. The second important thing is, during that gap, what kind of personal or professional development you really want to focus, which you would sell once you return back to the career, or once you return back on roles. So once your challenges of life are over and you want to, get back to your normal life, your jobs or your career, you want to put back your energy into that, you need to showcase what did you do in that space. Did you learn something? And a lot of time people feel that learning is just about gaining certifications. But as a L&D person and also a learner of life, I generally feel learning is not only through courses, but through various things which you do in your life. Now, a lot of it can even be practical stuff which you do. A lot of it can be some voluntary projects which you do. A lot of it can be some business which you started for a small period of time, or a failed entrepreneurship journey which you did. Why? Because all of it is going to give you a learning, and that's what you're going to display whenever you show back your career gap story. And last but not the least, whenever you are taking up a career gap and returning back to work, you should say your story, not wait for a time when people come back to you and they ask like, okay, your resume is having a gap. What was the reason? You didn't tell us. Why did you take that particular gap? So these are few things I believe, Arjun, are very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think those are all great points, and you covered a lot there. So, one thing that I do want to emphasize is, what you said, Monica, about really telling your story in the most productive way, right? You may have taken a break for personal limitation reasons. Let's say it's due to health reasons, your own or somebody in the family, right? And a lot of employers are quite sympathetic to those kind of things. But a lot of times what we are seeing, especially with millennials and Gen Z generation, is they don't necessarily want to take only a break when the circumstances around them are creating some sort of limitations. They want to take a break because they want to, let's say, discover some of their passions, or kind of delve deep into one of those passions. So just want to share actually a quick story, based on one of the individuals I interacted with recently, who's using a platform. That person had been working in corporate for about 5-6 years, and after that time they realized they had this hobby for photography for a long time, which they hadn't been able to focus on during the the first 5-6 years of their corporate life. So they made a very deliberate decision of taking a career gap, going on a 4-month sabbatical where this person traveled throughout India and took very, I would say, very new age sort of photography of wildlife, of rural life in India, and many other things. So when they did that, they had a really nice portfolio of work that they had developed during this 4-month gap period. And once they tried to make a comeback, they were able to use this particular portfolio to showcase to their future employers of the kind of things that they had been doing. So even if the work that this person had been doing before they went on sabbatical wasn't really related to photography, but they were able to showcase very productively of the kind of things that they did during the career gap. So I think that is something that is one of my key takeaways from this individual's examples, as well as Monica, what you said. And the other thing, Monica, which I do have a follow up for you on, is you mentioned about resume. How people should proactively include something in the resume about their career gap. Apart from resume, do you think we can use, let's say, cover letters, or if we are having interviews with potential employers, how do you navigate those kind of questions in different areas of the job application process?
So it's not just resume where you show your covers, your story. There are these platforms of LinkedIn. Then again, these social media platforms where during your break also you are trying to create your personal brand and showcase it to the world. What are you ready with? So all these are the places where you are continuously, kind of showing your story at the same time networking. So whenever a right place comes in where, you can showcase what you are really looking forward to, these are the places where you can talk and you can say that this is my story and I would like to go ahead and take this particular opportunity and work with you. So it's not important after a career gap, you are supposed to work exactly into the same field where you were working before your career gap. So during this period, your CV, your LinkedIn, your personal branding on social media, your networking, these are all the places where you can showcase your story.
Yep, got it. And I think that's a good segue into the next topic that we want to cover in this discussion, which is more around now, just switching gears a bit. We have talked about why people should take a career gap, how to own their story. But let's say now you are in the phase where you're starting to plan your return to the workforce. Okay. So there are obviously, couple of things that people will need to do because they have been out of, quote unquote, the grind life, right? I mean, they have been probably focusing on non-work related things for about, let's say, a couple of months or even years. So what are some of the key action items that people should be focusing on as they start to plan their return to the workforce?
Okay. First of all, the most important thing is what exactly they want to do once they decide to return back to work. So do they want to really continue with what they were doing before the gap? Or do they want to now start with what is their purpose of life or whatever job they love to do? Because most of the time, in my 10, 12 years of corporate journey and thereafter working as an independent consultant, every individual who is working in a corporate is having some or the other problem with their job. So I believe career gap is one of those beautiful times in your life where you get an opportunity to select back something what you would love to do. Okay, so whenever you are trying to return back to workforce, first of the most important thing is determine what you want. And thereafter, start searching for that particular thing. Reflect everywhere. Why did you take that particular break? Whatever you have achieved or done in that break. Thereafter, also be familiarized with what are the current trends of hiring. So before you left that particular career, there were things or there were opportunities which were, you were able to get opportunities in one particular field and industry. Now the time has changed and last 1-2 years have shown the digital space to grow and outgrow the required or the thought area or arena, I would say. So it is also understanding the current trends of the industry. Networking is again very important when you think about returning back to workplace. Thereafter, it's also important to understand the new age life skills which are important, because most of the time, as it is commonly said, you are hired because of your hard skill, but you are fired because of your soft skill. But if I talk about today's time, and I'm dealing with a lot of corporates, everybody have started focusing a lot on the life skills. How well are you able to communicate? what is your critical thinking at one particular time? What is your creation, or like what are your creativity buds saying whenever you are stuck in a problem, or what kind of problem solving capacity do you have? So these
Right.
are few of the new age life skills you are supposed to be trained before you go and enter back into the workspace. Then again, if you are supposed to go and do an interview, you are supposed to practice, rehearse, and be prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, those are definitely the most critical points that are in my head as well. I think upskilling, networking, and then obviously preparing a very solid job application, which again, very proactively and deliberately focuses on your career gap and tells a story out of it, are all critical areas. I just want to,
Arjun, one of the most important thing you missed, what
yeah,
exactly the candidate wants. Because this is the
absolutely,
second inning of the life. And most of the
right.
time it is said the second inning is all about what you want rather
Yeah.
than what comes to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the number one thing that you pointed out, Monica. And I completely, echo that thought. Because you have taken a break, it's obviously worth your while to ensure that the second innings or whatever, sometimes it could be third or fourth innings in your life, it is very much aligned with what you want to do next, right? It's a good time. But
Right.
two things that I do want to add, which can sometimes be low hanging fruits when you're trying to make a career comeback is do reach out to your former employers or companies within the industry that you worked previously in case you decide to continue on a similar career trajectory that you had prior to your gap, because a lot of times, I mean, those people already understand your strengths, what you bring to the table, so it could just really ease your whole comeback journey. The second thing that I want to share is, I don't know how many people are already aware of this, but a lot of large companies today, and sometimes even mid-sized ones, they have these specific programs that are targeted towards people who have taken a career sabbatical for whatever reason, and they're called returnship programs, typically speaking. Now, a lot of tech companies that I know of have these kind of programs. They usually take, I think, about 50 to 100
TCS
people.
and Accenture are the top ones who take these kind of employees who are returning
Yeah,
back to work.
exactly. So I mean, it's not just tech though. You should explore companies outside of tech and just, Google or talk to people from that company and explore whether they have such programs. And you'll be surprised to find how many companies are now so progressive in having very formalized and structured programs to enable career comebackers into the workforce. So I do want to add that. Apart from that, yeah, I think I completely agree, Monica, with the thoughts that you've shared in terms of how people should be planning. The next topic that I do want to cover very quickly before we open up the floor for more audience participation and questions is, when you are starting to, let's say, plan all of these things, all of these action items that will help you make a comeback, what we have seen a lot of times, there are a lot of companies who are quite reluctant in just easily incorporating you back into the workforce. So you will face a lot of rejections, right? And that's true for almost any job search process. It's not just for career comebacks. There are a lot of times that people have to apply for not just tens, but sometimes even hundreds of jobs before they start seeing any sort of traction, right? Interviews and then actual offers. Um, that can be very demoralizing, obviously, right? So how do you retain your confidence throughout that process of making a career comeback? Because you're going to face, most of the times you're going to face some challenges. You're going to face some declines, or even companies ghosting you where they don't respond to you at all. So it's very important to be mentally resilient, and all that. But what are some of the concrete action items again to keep going and not taking no for an answer?
Okay. So one of the most important thing for keeping confidence in almost everything in your life. So I'm sure everybody in the room would agree, confidence come with practice. So whenever we are practicing something more, or whenever we are doing the same thing time and again, confidence comes in. Okay. But in specific, if we talk about interview, whenever we are rejecting or we are rejecting time and we are getting rejected time and again, the confidence is decreasing. Now, the only one thing which can help all of us at this particular time is understanding our self-worth. So if we are sure that we have a right kind of self-worth, which will get a potential place to showcase itself, the confidence will never go. So this is the key to it. But then again, to keep going and maintaining a confidence, it's important that you know what you're trying to search. Thereafter, you are applying at the places where they really require you. So most of the time, we keep on hitting every organization, every HR, every recruiter begging for a job. And they are unable to help us because they don't have anything. They don't have a right opportunity which is matching us. And also, in past, I have also worked in HR closely and have done thousands of those typical interviews where we have rejected candidates. And as an HR who was doing that interview, I used to feel bad. But the only thing which used to happen at that particular time was that there was a job role and there was a candidate, and both of these were not in sync with each other. And that's what you need to remember every time you're going for an interview. You need to match yourself with that interview or that particular job which is there in market. That JD you need to understand well, and thereafter showcase yourself well so that they can understand your value. You need to understand your self-worth, and thereafter, the mapping goes on well.
Yeah.
I've tried to make it really, crisp so that everybody can use it rather than giving those pointers. Understand your self-worth, understand what the company needs, understand where you want to go, and thereafter map all these things.
Right. Yeah, I think definitely very important stuff. And
Arjun, one thing more, I'm sorry to interrupt, but one thing more I would like to add. There is an important role at this time of a career coach or a mentor also. A lot of time, whenever you are a fresh graduate or you're coming out of a college, you are very high in energy, and rejections will come. You are a fresher in market and everything is okay, and you will fall and learn. But as time passes, and when you are moving with time, there is a rigidness which comes into you as an individual, and you need a ear who can hear you, at the same time a person who can guide you in this particular pathway. And I believe that's where people like me come into picture. And career coaches help people to understand where they are lacking, what they can do in a better manner, and where they are supposed to move.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arjun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just going to, share something along the same lines, Monica, because, even on Pivot, one of the things we do there is we connect our users to industry experts within various fields, for mentorship and one-on-one guidance, in addition to career coaches. And, I strongly believe that people who are trying to make a career comeback or just advance in their career journeys, can really benefit from having a coach as well as a mentor within the industries. And those two roles serve very different purposes, which most people don't understand today. So in addition, I mean, you already highlighted what the coach can do for you. In addition to that, if let's say you are trying to either make a career transition into a different industry or pivot back into the same function, same role that you had, it's obviously very critical that you know a lot of people who can really guide you based on your background and your personal goals. Because a lot of times when you reach out to, let's say, people on LinkedIn, just cold outreach, and you try to connect with them, most of the people would not respond. And let's say even if they respond, they're not going to take the time to really understand who you are, what you are trying to achieve, what your challenges are, and then guide you in a very personalized way. So it's important to have a coach. It's also important to have an industry mentor to the extent that's available to you. The one other point that I would just add here is I have seen a lot of people recently really broadening their horizons in terms of how they make a career comeback. So a lot of people, let's say they were in a job prior to the gap, they want to continue doing that because it provides a very stable and secure income and job avenue. But at the same time, there are more and more, I would say, what I call autonomous careers out there, where you don't have to necessarily apply for a job, but you can start your own career or restart your own career on your own terms, which are options like freelancing, options like starting a side project, side hustle of your own. And in the past, obviously, these have been seen as more risky options where you have to do a lot. But today, there are so many tools and avenues available which allow you to start on your freelancing journey or start a side hustle in a very quick manner. And it doesn't require as much effort as it did in the past. So I've been seeing a lot more people who are, for example, launching their own tech platform startups, who are, let's say, starting their own designing agencies, and becoming freelancers. So if you want some entrepreneurial career where you want to take the reins of your the next chapter in your career, I think it is worth looking into these autonomous options that I just highlighted. So I think that's the only other point I wanted to add. Anything else, Monica, that you want to share on this?
One thing which most of the people need to remember if they are returning back to job, that they are, whatever they are trying to do or wherever they are trying to go back, they're supposed to explain their career gap, reassure that they are not going to take that gap again, share what has been their learning during the journey, and keep up to their personal branding at those places. So these are few things which they can remember during this entire comeback journey.
Perfect. Okay, I think we have rambled on for way too long. I hope everybody's still awake and listening to us. I think at this time it would be great that we bring on some audience to participate, to share their questions. So, guys, if you have anything, guys or girls, if you have anything you would like to share, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. If you want to type it out in the chat box as a question or a thought, you're most welcome to do that as well. So let's
I would say you all are welcome to have a conversation with the entire group. So please don't be just on mute and with your cameras off. Rather use this platform for an evening coffee where you can chit chat with all others in the industry and learn something which is really worthwhile.
Agreed. Yeah.
Great. So, Monica, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you very much, Arjun, as well. I think the reason I chose to attend this session is because I have been an ardent believer of taking breaks. And I think I qualify as one of those few people who has taken breaks at the very start of a career and, still gets questions and interviews in terms of, what were you doing those 3 months and all that. And I know it gets very taxing sometimes. And I have been through that phase and understood that, it's a common question. Like if I were the recruiter, I would be asking pretty much the same set of questions. So my thought process and my question is more around, what if a person wants to take multiple breaks in life, right? So see, if there is one break that a person takes, can be justified, can be, either because of medical issues, because of, something in the family, starting a family, so many other reasons, probably, you're prepping for studies and whatnot. But if you're someone who chooses to take, breaks quite frequently, right? What is the perception of the recruiters about such people? And how do you justify the same to someone? And when I say frequently, I'm not saying like every 2 years you're taking breaks, but say, you took a break 2 years back, then you've worked for about 3.5, 4 years, you again want to take a break, right? And I think that's how the career going forward is going to look like. With the amount of work that people are doing on a daily basis, with the amount of burnout that's happening, I think that's how the career is going to look like. And which is why, I'm in the field of HR. I see a lot of tech people reach out saying, can I be in the field of HR with the same salaries and all that? And I get to answer some of these funny questions and tell them, boss, I think you have to get your basics right. But with that being said, I want to understand, like, if someone wants to take frequent breaks in life because that is how the person is designed, or probably like no one anticipated the pandemic, right? Someone might have lost their loved ones. They might have taken a break earlier, but because they lost a loved one, they have to kind of heal themselves. How do they go about and talk about it to the recruiter? And how I do know there'll be a lot of judgmental questions, even if the recruiter doesn't want to, because there are hundreds of stakeholders involved, right? It's not just the HR who's going to decide. It's an organization you're entering into. So please pardon me. I know my question was long, but I just want to ensure that my
Can I
message
take
is
it now?
reaching.
Can I take it
Yeah,
now?
yeah, sure,
So
sure.
Dipti, as you yourself said that every individual has a different personality. Now there are people who want to remain in a secure job for the 30 years of their career. Then again, there are people who want to enjoy all the parts of their life. Now, what can happen in such situation? I believe every personality also knows the fact that every action has an equal and an opposite reaction too. So if you are trying to take time and again break, either enter into an industry where it is okay to take a break, like a creative industry. Enter into an industry where every time you go on a break, you can, kind of claim that we were trying to create something new. Okay. In case if you want to work in a normal job pathway and just move like all others, then be ready that your salary is going to be impacted. But at the same time, if you enter into an organization with a little less salary and you are able to perform or outperform, you will be able to reach the level of all others. The third important thing which every individual need to understand, that there are jobs which also require people who are jumpy in nature. Why? Because the organizations don't want to pay a lot to them. So they are okay with the fact that people are coming and going. They are okay with the fact that the bottom line, the triangle's bottom line, is continuously changing. They are not supposed to pay them regularly while they are growing in the ladder. So these are few things which they are supposed to know. But at the same time, if they want a very structured life, that every year they want a promotion with a hike, then they should not opt for it. And that's the fact of the life. So if you want those breaks, be ready to have its outcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And enjoy it.
Yeah, I think Monica, you hit it on the head. And I would just add just one small thing there is, orthodoxically speaking, meaning like historically, I think especially from an Indian employment market standpoint, the mindsets were very, I would say, orthodox and not be lenient towards people who took frequent breaks. Some of that trend, especially at certain, I would say, more progressive organizations, is evolving. I mean, that's not to say that if you're taking, break, let's say after every year, that those organizations would, welcome you back with open arms every year. But at the same time, if people frowned upon somebody with multiple breaks earlier on, they are not doing that just blindly. I think they are looking at the person in a more holistic manner, seeing what their background is, what kind of skill set they have, what they did during that break, right? How did they make the most of it, either for professional or personal reasons, and then make a more informed decision on a case by case basis. So that is something that people like ourselves who are in this space are seeing a lot of our hiring partners do as well. So something that definitely was more of a challenge historically, but is seemingly becoming slightly more and more seamless and smooth in the coming future. So that's what I
And
want
at
to
the
add.
same time, it is also need based. So if the company needs that kind of a talent, they will take that person, even if the breaks are, there are a lot of breaks in the resume. It is a need based response from the organization side also.
Right, right, absolutely. So hope Deepti, that answers your question to some extent. And
Yes.
if in case you have any follow-up questions, or you just want to chat with Monica or myself, we'll share our contact information at the end of the discussion. So feel free to reach out to us. I'd also see a question from Subhankar. Subhankar, I think it's in the chat box, Monica. I hope you can see it as
I'll
well.
just read that.
It says, I've recently
Read it out.
decided to take a career break after 6 years of a rewarding career, but now I feel confused. Was it right? I decided to take a break for 2-3 months to start working on my own business plan, upskill myself, and break the monotony of regular deadlines and schedules. I feel like that is one of the most common questions that I get from people, and a very relevant one, because a lot of people are thinking about something like this. So it's a
Okay.
$1 million question, and Monica, a loaded one. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, so Shubhankar, in such situation, there are two things which you do. The first option is, do you really have an option to go back to the organization and get all what you had in past? Or the second one, to focus on your present and your future. So your answer gets divided into two things. Can you rebuild your past, or you only have an option of living in your present and your future? And in most of the cases, the answer would be the second one. Now you are left with your present and making up your future. So give your best shot to your entrepreneurship journey. In case if you fail, then you can always go back and search for more job opportunities which are there in the market.
Yeah, very well said.
So 2 years back, I'm sorry, Arjun, 2 years back, Shubhankar, I did exactly the same thing. I was working as the L&D head for one of the organization, and with a good reputation, good salary, everything good. And I would frankly speak it up at that particular thing that I was working very less in comparison to what I'm doing right now. There was no hard work involved. There was nothing which was involved. Every day, go sit in your cabin, come back and have a chill life. And then suddenly I decided to take up this entrepreneurship pathway. After 1 month or 2 months, I was exactly at the same question. But then again, two choices were there. I thought there is no point considering choice one. So I opted for choice two. And that's where I'm standing today. Thank you, Arjun. And thank you, Shubhankar. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, all very relevant points. I think, Monica, similar to you and similar to Shubhankar, I have been in the same journey myself over the last year. And just from, my personal experience, I think there are some critical things you need to think about when you're making a decision around starting something of your own, whether it's, a coaching career or it's an entrepreneurial career of starting your own startup. Um, One is, what are the key reasons you're doing it for, right? How much of the push factor you have within your current organization, and how much of a pull factor you have towards your desired role. If it's only the push factors that are really kind of making you think about a career transition, then I think you need to first explore what could be the potential opportunities which are really attractive for you on a go forward basis, because you need something that is going to be sustainable for you on a long term basis, right? So for example, if you're just bored in your current job and you don't like the monotony of regular deadlines, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to start a company of your own, right? That may mean finding another company or another kind of industry or domain where your job, stimulates you more and requires you to do more, different kinds of work on a day-to-day basis as well. But yes, if you have always thought about an entrepreneurial career, right, then this is something that you should take up as a career, which Subhanka, you have. But again, one thing that is really critical here is once you have made that decision, there is no looking back, at least for, I would say, the first year. Because the first year is when you're going to just set the fundamentals, lay down the roots of your new initiative. And the only critical ingredient that you need to be able to sustain that for a year is financial bandwidth. If you have that financial bandwidth, your personal savings, or any other financial options available to you, then give it at least a year, um, which is deemed some sort of, like, I would say, a best practice within the startup community, with other founders that I've spoken with as well. And then decide whether you think your entrepreneurial journey is sustainable, you want to continue with it, or if you want to pivot back to your prior role or perhaps something entirely different. Um, yeah, those are some of the thoughts that I have on that. Hope that's helpful. And I would love to invite others now as well to share their career journey and their reasons for career gap and what they're trying to do to make a comeback. Guys, come on. We have been, I think, adding. Okay, that's Subhanka. Yeah, this.
Okay, hi Arjun, hi Monica.
Hi, Payal.
So I did take a career break about a couple of years back, but I have been trying to upskill myself as much as I can. I started out in a corporate world, but I realized very early on that I'm not cut out for it. So going back to teaching was something I did, and I've been teaching for almost 10 years now, but then I took a couple of years break. So I'm on that track of, applying for jobs and applying to various schools and colleges where I can restart my career. But the only hitch every time I feel that comes up is there is still that aggressive thought, that since you've taken a break, and though I have done a lot many courses in these 2 years, and I've tried to professionally develop myself as much as I can, there's still that thought that that break has kind of stopped the growth in my career. Now, if I want to look for senior positions, that does not come easy. So I don't know how teaching is relevant to your because most of the time it's the tech companies you're looking at, or most of the time you have people from HR background and stuff. So how do you take this career as something that your thoughts that can help me put myself out and make my career gap, and convince that the upskills or the professional development courses that I've done really have put me to at a place where I can take senior positions much more easily, given that I have a management background too. Not just the teaching skills, but also the management background. So how do I fit in the two things together before I start applying to
Payal, the first important thing you need to understand here is whatever professional development courses you did, are they matching to the current needs? Because a lot of time as individuals, we all feel that we have done X number of certifications and now it is time for us to get the reward back. But at the same time, you need to understand, are you really helping somebody with those certifications? So wherever you are applying, if you are applying in a university, or if you are applying at an institute, or even if you want to start your own institute, what are you trying to sell somebody? And is that selling actually mapping their need? The first important one. The second thing is, a lot of time as individuals, whenever we are trying to do this career transition or career comeback, what we say, it is important for us to understand when we are being pulled by jobs, when will we be pulled by jobs? When they need us. But now is the time when we need a job, so we are supposed to pull them towards ourselves. And how will that happen? That will happen through your personal branding. Now try to find out platforms where you can find similar people. So there are a lot of places where you'll find principals, teachers, and the management heads of these educational institutes, and thereafter go there and try to create your personal branding. And they should say like, okay, if that's Payal, oh, we know her, these are the things which she has as her values, or these are the things she's an expert in. And that's where once they try to feel that need, they'll think about you and you'll get the place. Also, an important thing for education side, because I also do a lot of programs with universities and schools. Now, education sector doesn't work exactly like a corporate sector. So in corporate, you can see a ladder growing up, but in education sector, it's more about your impact growing up. Now, if you have decided to go back into education sector, first of all, you need to be clear that you are not going to get a ladder. You have to enter the place and thereafter start creating your impact. So if you talk about your own school teacher, your school teachers were not growing in designation, right? They were just growing in the kind of respect they were able to achieve in that particular institute. So that will only happen step by step. That will not happen automatically, because now you have a 10 years experience and you have 20 certifications to show. I hope that answers the question, Payal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That gives quite clarity to what I wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Payal.
Great. Yeah, and I don't, have a lot of experience, personally speaking, in the education sector. But one thing, Payal, that I do want to share is, we have been working with a few teachers, both in India and in fact, the US as well. And this is a bigger trend in the US market, is a lot of teachers are actually transitioning out of the traditional, school and university sector and becoming attached to the edtech sector. And that's, that poses some challenges for schools and universities. But at the same time, given the boom that we have seen in the edtech sector because of COVID, especially, there are a lot of teachers who are now trying to explore if they can balance part of their professional career in the traditional avenues in schools, and part of it, like, for example, creating course materials or becoming, let's say, a customer experience associate and those kind of careers in the edtech sector. There are a lot of companies, a lot of startups in India too, which are really looking for teachers with several years of experience who can create like advanced course materials for their programs. So that's not to kind of like stray you from your ongoing career journey, but just to give you an additional avenue or additional idea to think about. And again, I mean, I'm sure Monica, since you are connected to a lot of universities and schools, and we are also connected to some of these edtech platforms. In case you want to explore it, feel free to reach out, and we will try to connect you into these institutions possibly. So I hope that
Great,
was,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
hope that was helpful.
All the best, Payal.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, do we have any more people who want to share their questions? This is your best time to, gain from the wisdom of the crowds, get, everybody's thoughts and ideas on the table. It might help you with your overcome your challenges and achieve some breakthroughs. So guys, please feel free to share. At least I would think we have time for one more question. So if any one of you would like to just unmute themselves and speak up, or again, write it out in the chat box.
So if no question, that's absolutely fine. We would like to really hear, like, what is that one feeling you get when you are undergoing this career gap? And this particular answer is not for me. This is for yourself, that you can recognize what actually is the problem with which you are supposed to fight. And it would be great to see you and hear you before we are coming to an end. Let's not end this webinar with just few names on the screen, rather few faces who are there to help you in your career change journey. So Shubhankar, Shranaya, Deepthi, Vijay, Vandana, Christopher, it would be great to see you. If we can hear you, what's that one thing which bothers you during this change? It's not for me, it's for you yourself, that you can understand, you can recognize, and you can, thereafter bring a solution for yourself. And we are always there to help in the journey. Anybody would like to say anything? So Arjun, over to you. Then we'll be ending up with the session.
Yeah, I think, it's time that we can wrap it up. I am very glad again, Monica, that we could do the session. We have recorded it. So for those people who could not make it to the session but had registered, we would be able to share it with them, as well as people who have joined us here. Guys, I think, this is a topic that's becoming more and more, trending. It's a lot of people out there who want to take a break, but don't find the courage or a very strategic plan to be able to execute it. And I hope this session provided some good insights to you on how you can overcome some of these challenges when you're taking a gap. And the main thing that Monica talked about in the beginning, that we all need to focus on is owning this career gap story, right? Making sure that when you're doing it, when you have made the decision that you are going to continue on this path, then don't look back. Just own it and find ways to make it as productive of a journey for yourself as possible. So that's my one big takeaway, apart from the many others that we shared during this session. Monica, any closing comments, anything that you would like to share?
If you really want to go on a break, first of all, understand your own need. And thereafter, whenever you are returning back from your break, understand the market's need. That's it.
Perfect. I like it. Short and sweet. I think, one last thing I would like to do is, again, thank you, Monica, for joining us on this session. You, I know, have a lot of experience working with other professionals who have taken a career gap, especially women, but I know, males as well. So I hope, people who attended this and people who are using our platform will reach out to you for your personal guidance so that they can really, make a more effective use of their career gaps and then make a smoother comeback into the workforce. So thanks so much again for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who joined us today. Again, I hope that you are able to achieve your career goals going forward. One last thing I would like to do is just share my screen so you can see the contact information for Monica and myself in case you want to reach out. Monica, actually, do you mind just making me the host again?
Okay, just give me a minute. You're the host now.
Perfect. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. In case you want to reach out to Monica, please, just connect with her on LinkedIn. You can just type out Monica Swamy, and I'm sure she'll be one of the first people to come up there. We have also shared her email here in case you would like to reach out to her directly. In case you want to reach out to me, again, LinkedIn is the best place. And if you want to reach out directly, here's my email. We'll drop all of these in the chat box too as well, just very quickly. And the last thing is, for anybody who is trying to make a transition into different domains or industry as a professional, do check out Pivot. Here's the URL for it, www.mypivot.work. So I hope, guys, you have all the information you need to reach out to us. Please feel free to contact whenever you would like. I will just drop these in the chat box as well very quickly. But with that, I think we are coming to the close of this session. And thanks everyone for joining. Hope you have a great rest of the evening. Thanks again, Monica, for making time for this. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Monica.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.